Race number 10 of Season 5 of the NNSCRA Pizza Hut X Series rolls into the place that started out the season, Daytona International Speedway, but we're not running the 2.5 mile superspeedway configuration. Today we are continuing on the race weekend from the road course configuration, a little over 3.5 miles in length. Now, for those that didn't tune into the Truck Series race, we were supposed to this weekend for the Pizza Hut X Series drivers endurance race at the track known as Open Roads, but due to some problems where the game kept crashing in the middle of every time I would try to record, we're here for all three series, Trucks, Pizza Hut X Series, and tomorrow's Hersheys Cup Series race at this road course. So this is going to be interesting because all these drivers, all the fans, myself and the commentators booth, we weren't prepared that we were going to be coming here to Daytona. We had it all set up that we were going to be going to Vancouver, we were going to be going to Open Roads, and now we've been thrown this curveball, and these drivers as well have thrown a curveball, knowing that a playoff position could very well be on the line if some of them, or one of them is able to go to victory lane here at this race at Daytona Road Course. So we'll see what happens. 20 laps on tap here today, and if you didn't tune into our truck race yesterday, this could turn into very much a fuel strategy race. It'll turn into a bit of an endurance race, really. And got a couple of drivers lined up on the front row who really are looking to find victory lane. One of them running well in the points, the other one not so much. Pole sitter Cole Deaver comes into this race 15th in the points, had a good run last time out 2 weeks ago at Richmond. On the flip side, James Shelley. Let's get the command real quick and we'll tell you about Shelley.
Is this on? Drivers, start your engines.
On the flip side, Shelley did not have a good run at his home track. Dropped 6 spots in the standings after Richmond, down to 36th in the points. So obviously looking for a good run here today. And if our truck race, again, is anything to base this race off of, which is basically the only thing we have to go on, track position is very, very important at this road course. Give you your top 10, the points overall coming to this race presented by Blame Shelley Insurance. Phil Parker comes into this race 6 points in hand over Austin LaPlante. Daniel Olson, third in the point standings. Diego Yepes, who won the last time out's race at Richmond, he is fourth. Mason Wood currently in fifth. And you got Zach Flickinger, Charles Jackson, Brooke Allen, Alex Gray, Andrew Davis, your top 10. 62 points separate the top 10 in the standings coming into this one. 9 races, 9 different race winners, all 9 inside the top 30 in points, the lowest being Elijah Gilbert, who's 21st in points, who won at this track when we ran to start off the season, but it was the super speedway configuration at the time. So here we go. Cole Deaver and James Shelley gonna lead us down here. Start finish line where it normally is, right here in the middle of the tri-oval. The flagman's ready. Green flags in the air. We're underway at Daytona Road Course. Let's roll. There you see that hard left-hand turn 1 into the road course section of the track. Oh, got a car that went up and into the wall just a little bit there. It looked like Joshua Hyatt, and I think another car got into the wall behind him. Looked like the 46 of Chloe Erickson. No caution, though. We're still green. As Cole Deaver checks out with the lead, James Shelley into second. Olson there into third place. Losing touch with the leader just for the moment. Austin LaPlante there in fourth, and battle maybe brewing for fifth between a couple of teammates. On Bronskus in the 2 and Joshua Hyatt in the 92, who you see has that left side damage, so he did get the wall. Doesn't look like this really affected him though, but that's a steel guardrail that they hit that separates the exit of pit road from the rest of the racetrack, and now he's under fire from Eli Bright. This, I believe, is a battle for 6th place. Eli Bright's going to make the pass. And he'll make it just before they come down here into one of my favorite sections, the chicane, just off the Daytona back straightaway. Austin LaPlante had thoughts about third from Daniel Olson. Didn't get the preferred line into the chicane, though, and has to slap back to fourth. That brought Andre Bronskus to his back bumper to maybe battle for that spot, but no dice just yet. So Cole Deaver leads the way, and we will complete the first lap of this race under green. We just really needed these drivers to get single file. Going double wide into turns 1 and 2 is a little hairy, but they were able to make it through without wrecking. So now we start to look at this race going into a long green flag run, possibly to the checkered flag. And with that being said, The fuel window coming into this race is somewhere between 9 to 10 laps, which makes it very close for the drivers to be able to make it on 2 stops, or at least on 1 stop, really. Because they could be anywhere from a half lap to a full lap short, depending on when they pit here under the first round of green flag pit stops. So it's really going to come down to who's going to be able to save some fuel. I think right now you want to run it out as hard as you can. But then on the second stint, after you make the green flag pit stop, you are going to want to make sure that you save about maybe 1 to 1.5 laps on fuel. Good battle going on back here just inside of the top 10. This is, I believe, a battle for the 8th position. Andrew Gonzales going to make the pass on them all. He'll move to 8th. That'll move J Gilbert back to 9th. J Sandfer there in 10th. And then there's Phil Parker in 11th place. LaPlante's running in 4th. So right now, LaPlante would have Parker by 1 point for the points lead overall at this point in time. Right now, both of our top 2 in the standings running very, very well. Both former winners from this season. LaPlante at Dover and Parker at Memphis. And behind them, you've got Alexander Rowe, Carter Friesen. A couple of teammates out of Smart Motorsports. I thought before when we saw them hit the wall on the steel guardrail separating the access road from the racetrack, I thought the orange car I saw was Chloe Erickson, but we see left side damage on the Auto Trader Ford Mustang, so I'm assuming it was actually Alexander Rowe that I saw brush the wall. And we got a car coming to pit road already. J Gilbert, this is not a scheduled stop, I don't think. Gilbert from the 9th position hitting pit lane. And we mentioned that he came into this race the lowest of the race winners in the standings, 21st in points. Now, why would he be pitting now? I don't know, unless this team is planning to pit from backwards, strategize backwards. Maybe they feel that the drivers are going to have to make 2 pit stops and trying to get off sequence. This is really interesting. 1 car doing it as Cole Deaver was ahead of James Shelley by quite a bit, by about 3-4 car lengths. Now Shelley starting to close the gap back up. LaPlante also starting to close in. Sounded like someone just hit the wall. I don't know if that was a car bottoming out from the transition of the road course onto the banking of what is Daytona 1 and 2. I think that was just a side skirt scraping on the asphalt of the racetrack. And talk about some visibility problems. Look at this. As they all cut down through this bus stop, they keep kicking some dust up. And that dust lingers. I mean, that dust is from the last lap, and it's still lingering there. So there's got to be a little bit of a problem for these drivers trying to find their marks going through the chicane. Cole Deaver, though, looking for his first win since, I believe, Season 2. He made it into the playoffs that year, but he has been winless since then. And Deaver started on the pole position. He's led so far. James Shelley and Austin LaPlante, though, both of them utilizing the draft through the Daytona Speedway section of 3 and 4, were able to get up to the back bumper. Both of them kind of took that corner a little sharp, though. LaPlante got out of shape, as did Shelley, both trying to avoid hitting the wall. We've got a battle for 5th. Eli Bright is a man on a mission trying to get around Daniel Olson, but slid a little wide through that corner, hits the rumble strip. Andrew Gonzales trying to get by Joshua Hyatt. That is for 7th. And he'll get the spot. Gonzales, who finished runner-up to last time out's winner, Diego Yepes Juan Garcia rather, at Richmond. And moved him up very well in the standings to 24th, now trying to continue to climb through the points. Another rookie there, J Sandfer, slotted in 9th, and Phil Parker now up into the 10th position. Still 7 positions behind LaPlante. There's LaPlante in 3rd. So right now, advantage LaPlante by 1 point in the overall standings. Now, like I said before, the only race that we've got to go off of, because this is the first time and the first weekend that has ever played host at the Daytona Road Course in these 3 main series. Capping off our race weekend from the Daytona road course, we get set for race number 12 of Season 7 of the NCRA Hersheys Cup Series. Getting ever closer to the point when this season's regular season will come to an end, and we will know the 16 drivers that will battle it out for this season's championship. And we've had some surprise winners here in the last two races, the truck race and the Pizza Hut X Series race, expecting no less here today in a race that very well could come down to fuel strategy. Look at the front row, though. We had John Arndt not too long ago pick up his second win of the season. That locks him into the playoffs. We got Levi McIntire, our winner from Phoenix, and Kyle Mathews, our winner from, where was it? Thornton? No. Where did he win? Richmond, I believe. No, it wasn't even Richmond. Where was it? Charlotte. That's where it was, the Coke 600. Lined up on the front row. They both want to go to victory lane for the second time, lock themselves up spots in the playoffs. Kyle Mathews, of course, a former champion. But then look behind them. Look at these names that would love to be able to get a win to get into the playoffs. Former champion Chris Dodd, Cole Baker, K Shearer, Benjamin Miles, Benny Watson, Shane Lake, all these drivers up here towards the front, hoping that the track position they got in qualifying is going to put them in good stead for good starting track position to be in the hunt for the race win here today at Daytona. This is going to be one of the few races where we're going to be a little bit surprised about what the fuel window is. We kind of knew what it was for the drivers in the two previous races. We don't really know about it here.
Drivers, start your engines.
What we do know is we're in for a really exciting race. The last two races we ran here have been really, really good. Who knows? Daytona Road Course may be a mainstay on the schedule. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been very unpredictable, really, to be perfectly honest. We've had two races so far where we've gone clean and green. We'll see if these drivers can do it here today in this 20-lap event. Time to give you your top 10 in the point standings coming to this race, presented by Blame Shelley Insurance. Jake Baskinger, the points leader. Kyle Mathews, after some good runs in the last few weeks, he's now up to second in the standings with Joseph Srigley in third. John Arndt, the only two-time winner, is fourth, with Seth Cole currently in fifth. Scott Roush sixth, Jessica Shelton in seventh, Levi McIntire, the pole sitter, is eighth, Kyle Keith in ninth, and Dylan Young completes the top 10. A couple of drivers we have to keep an eye on during the course of this race. Tim Walsh, our Daytona 500 winner, he's in the very critical 30th position in points. And Dallas McIntosh, despite winning last week's race at Thornton, it only put him up to 32nd in points. So right now, his win does now not count towards a playoff position. We'll see if he can gain ground in today's race at Daytona. 20 laps of racing, two former winners, McIntyre and Mathews, bring us down. Green flags in the air, we're underway at Daytona. Let's roll. Very quickly, McIntyre going to take the spot. Mathews will give him the position it looked like and slide into second place. Down into the toughest section of the course there. A couple cars hit the wall. One of them was K Shearer. Benny Watson might have gotten a piece of it. We'll be able to tell when they come through here. No, Watson did not hit it, but you can see the left side damage on K Shearer, so he definitely hit it. But did they wreck is the question. Nope, pace car does not have the lights on. We're still green. So it looks like we may be settling into a long green flag race like we did in the truck race and Pizza Hut X race before this. Just a matter of getting through the first corner without having a wreck happen. Drivers hit the wall, they brush the wall, they get some damage, but still continue on and don't wreck. Now right here, if we were running out the speedway itself, this would be turns 1 and 2. But this is actually the exit of the first section of the road course. And then the road course only really has one other section down here on the back straightaway, the chicane, the dog leg, the bus stop, whatever you want to call it, down here on the back straightaway that we saw during the half pace lap. Mathews all over the back bumper of McIntyre, though. He wants the race lead. I mentioned that Mathews has been on a streak of really good finishes here for the second half of the regular season. Of course, starting it off with the win in the Coke 600 at Charlotte. He finished 28th, so not that great at Richmond, but then had a good run last week at Thornton as he's going to go for the race lead here off Levi McIntire. Mathews finishing 4th at Thornton. McIntyre had a good run at Thornton as well, finished in 6th. Whoa, look out! Mathews cuts the corner and he's going to get the lead. Nice pass by the 09. And now we got a battle for third. Chris Dodd to the inside of Cole Baker. And he'll complete the pass. Well, I'll tell you what, very early on in this race, we are seeing a lot more passing for position than we saw in both the truck and Pizza Hut X Series races combined. I don't really think we had a pass for the lead in the truck race, with the exception of when they had the green flag pit stops. And the only pass for the lead I can think of in the Pizza Hut X Series race was the pass that we saw between Eli Bright and Austin LaPlante, which eventually got Eli Bright the win. You know, we get to this portion of the season, the chase towards the chase for the championship, what I call it, between the All-Star race break and, of course, the end of the regular season, and you start to be able to formulate a little bit of an idea, especially with our somewhat shrunk down schedule, as to who look like they are going to be drivers, even at this point of the season, that are going to be battling for the championship. And I mean, obviously we know John R, fourth in the points with 2 wins. You see down on the bottom right of your screen your current playoff standings coming to this race. I mean, we know for certain he's probably going to make it into the playoffs, as we're going to have a hard pitting here. Oh no, that's actually a battle for second between Chris Dodd and Levi McIntyre. But, you know, there's other names that we see here that have 1 win that I think very easily we could, even at this early stage, say are going to make it into the playoffs, with the fact that, including this race, we've got 4 more races left. And we had a car just leaving pit road just ahead of these guys, just ahead of the race leader, and that's the 79 rookie Jordan Lopez. A lot of damage on the back end of that machine, so something apparently has happened involving the 79, and we will show you what happened courtesy of the NNSCRA split cam. You may have already seen it, I don't know. It all depends on how on top of it our broadcasting crew is here, but I mean, I think we could safely say that Jake Baskinger with a win and leading the points, I think we can safely say he's going to be in the playoffs. I think we could say Kyle Mathews will be in the playoffs. He's second in the points, has a win. Jessica Shelton, Levi McIntyre, they're 7th and 8th in points with a win. Dylan Young, J Cittadino, Anthony McCrury, I think you could say these guys very easily are into the playoffs. I think the question mark drivers that we mentioned of whether they're going to make it or not are Tim Walsh and Dallas McIntosh, because those 2 drivers come in very critical positions in the points. Tim Walsh in that 30th position in the standings, and Dallas McIntosh currently in 32nd after his win last week at Thornton. So right now, at this current point in time, I think we can safely say that there are as many as 8 drivers that have locked themselves up spots in this season's 16-driver playoff system. Kyle Mathews leading the way here. We saw him get around Levi McIntyre, both of them former winners this season, so if either one of them get their second win, they would join John R for most wins this year, and at the same time would definitely confirm themselves a spot in the chase for the championship. Although, like I said, I think at this point, with where they're running, wow, Kyle Mathews getting around Jordan Lopez. He almost got the guardrail for his troubles. But since Mathews is second in points and McIntyre is 8th, I think right now that those 2, even if they just leave here with a good finish, I think they're almost all but confirmed getting into the playoffs. And it's been a long time for Kyle Mathews since he's been in the playoffs. Last time he was in the playoffs was when he won the championship back in Season 2. And Levi McIntyre, I'm trying to remember if he ever did make the playoffs. I remember he had an early win at Las Vegas back. I think that was also in Season 2. I don't remember if he was in the playoffs that year. I remember at least for the last 3 or so seasons, he would get wins, but they'd be wins that would take place during the chase. And so obviously they didn't get him into the playoffs. Look back and see, it might have been Season 3, but I'm pretty sure it was Season 2 when McIntyre won at Las Vegas. And yes, indeed, that was the case. Let's see, did he make the playoffs that year? Yes, he did. He did make the playoffs. He finished 15th out of 16 drivers. Drivers having to deal with that slow lap machine now of Jordan Lopez. Looks like at least the top 6, maybe 7 have gotten around him there. Daniel Voyles in 9th place actually is the next driver to try and pass him. Shane Lake lost a couple of spots to K Shearer and Benny Watson. Shearer now moves to 6th. Watson up to 7th, and now Watson looking to go for 6th place. That's all going on behind the 25 of Miles, who currently runs 5th. Behind Baker in 4th. Good run there for That car out of Fitzwater Australia Racing, Chris Dodd. No surprise, I mean, obviously a lot of these drivers up here towards the front are drivers that qualified well, so they had very good starting track position, but Chris Dodd, let's not forget, back in his championship season, one of the tracks he won at was a road course, Mid-Ohio. I don't know if K Mathews has a road course win in the Hersheys Cup Series. I do know Levi McIntyre does. McIntyre had a win at Lime Rock. I think that was back in Season 5, if memory serves me correctly. That was one of those races, like I alluded to before, that were during the playoffs, so it didn't count towards getting him into a chance to battle for the championship. And no, it was not Season 5, so I guess it was Season 4. Well, we've got the question, though, still of when are the pit stops going to be for these drivers. Most of the time, I try and, go down the garage area, ask the crew chiefs and everything, what is the fuel window for these drivers? And I was able to get the information for the truck race and the Pizza Deck Series race yesterday, but we didn't have time to be able to go down perusing in the garage today, so it's a bit of a question mark for me as to how far these drivers can go. Now, if I were to speculate, based off of what we saw in the truck and the Pizza Deck Series races, I would say these drivers would be somewhere between maybe 10 to 12 laps. So we might be halfway on a fuel run at this point in time. Mathews has scampered away with the lead. We've got a battle brewing here for second between Chris Dodd and Levi McIntyre, and Chris is going to take the spot. Now Cole Baker is going to try and get third place. Gets caught in the outside line through that right-hander, and that's going to allow McIntyre to at least hold off Baker for third for the moment, but a change for second. Chris Dodd now clearing the 99. Now we'll have to see if the 8 can maybe reel in K Mathews. A couple of former champions going to go at it here. K Mathews from Season 2 and Chris Dodd from Season 3. Or was it the other way around? Both drivers former Daytona 500 winners as well. Caution! Caution's out. I just saw the yellow lights there, and that's the first time this weekend that the caution flag has waved at the Daytona road course. And that might throw all the fuel strategy out the window now. And I got the championships flip reversed. It was Chris Dodd in Season 2, K Mathews Season 3. K Mathews, who had over a 3.5 second lead between himself and Chris Dodd, that's all going to shrink away now, and now we may end up getting the benefit of seeing pit strategy under caution. As you see, the yellow flag was waving there. K Mathews receives it. I don't know where the pace car is at. It might take a little bit of time for K Mathews to catch up to it. Okay, it's just now heading out of turn 4. K Mathews now in turn 2, so he'll catch up to it pretty soon here. See if we can find out who was involved. Some damage on the left side of Sean Gallighan's machine. Looks like damage also on the right side. Daniel Gilbert in the Force got some damage. Don't know if he was involved or not. Shane Lake's way back here. And Lake was up inside the top 10 not too long ago, so it might have involved him. Oh, and there's a car that probably was definitely involved. A lot of damage on the 29 of Kyle Keith. And Kyle Keith came into this race 9th in the point standings. You can see down on your playoff grid that he was actually in one of the playoff positions coming into this race. That's not what he was looking for. And Anthony McCrury, our winner from Atlanta, also with damage. Two-time winner John Arndt's back here, but doesn't look like he has damage. There is damage on the back end of the 89 of Jordan Anderson, though. So he might have gotten involved in the wreck. Looks like some front-end damage there on Charles Sandfer. And I think Emmanuel Hartnett looked like he had some damage on his number 20 as well. Yeah, I think you see a little bit of front-end damage there. Right side damage right up behind the right front wheel. So K Mathews leads us under yellow. And we would normally stick around to see the round of pit stops, but we're going to actually go back, take a look at a replay of what happened, and then we'll come back and try to document who comes to pit road, and if anybody maybe risks it and stays out, we'll see. Well, this is a wad of race cars from about 20th place on back. We're going to follow the 29 of Kyle Keith. There's Daytona 500 winner Tim Walsh, who needs a good day, running 30th in the point standings. And it looks like it's going to be this corner right here. Keith's going to hit that steel guardrail. And that car's going to spin around. Most drivers have been doing a good job keeping their car straight. Gets a hit there from Emmanuel Hartnett in the 20. Charles Sandfer gets a piece of it right there. See if we can get a better camera angle. There's Anthony McCrury comes flying in. He's going to get involved, I think McCrury may end up getting a shot. Well, maybe not. I thought maybe he gets hit by Jessica Shelton, but I think she avoided him, as did the points leader, Jake Baskinger. And everybody got through okay for the most part. Most everybody else got on the brakes. Now, the 89's got rear end damage, though. I don't know where that came from. He didn't get involved in this wreck, so it's almost, I don't know if he got the rear end damage maybe from spinning in this same area. Oh, John Arndt got spun around though. John Arndt did get involved. Now what happened to the 05? He got into McCrury. But how? Oh, he didn't slow down. I thought he had it all avoided, but he didn't. John Arndt, who ended up picking up his second win a few weeks ago at Richmond. Yeah, right there. He gets into Anthony McCrury, whose car I think had pretty much blown up. And John Arndt got some damage there. I mean, the good news for John Arndt, he's got those 2 wins in his pocket, so he's probably going to make it into the playoffs anyway, but obviously was looking for a good run here, didn't have good starting track position, and now gets involved in our first caution of the day, first caution of the weekend here at Daytona. Green flag set to come back out here on lap 9 of 20. We have road course yellows, so basically when the caution comes out, the drivers receive it. Next time by, pits are open. Next time by, we go back green. Kyle Mathews did stay out, so he'll restart the leader. Chris Dodd second, Levi McIntyre third. 4th place, Cole Baker, Benny Watson 5th. 6th is K Shearer. 7th is Dallas McIntosh, who mentioned after his win at Thornton last week, needed a good run to get himself in the top 30 in points. Right now, he's there. 8th place would be J Bryant. 9th is Joshua Osborne, and I believe completing the top 10 would be J Cittadino. We did have a couple of drivers that did hit pit road. S Gallighan was one. Benjamin Miles was another. Shane Lake as well. See Emmanuel Hartnett with no hood. Keith Batson, I believe, also hit the pit lane, as did Dylan Poteet, Holly Davis, Trent Dunham, Scott Roush, all these drivers. There's the 25 of Benjamin Miles. He was the first one to hit pit road, and he was in the 8th position, I believe, at the time. I think Voyles and J Gardner were also on pit road, along with Shane Lake. So giving up track position to come to pit lane here, maybe expecting that they can make it the rest of the way on fuel. We have one driver officially out of the race. That's Seth Cole, and I think he got involved in an incident that didn't bring out the caution. And we got 2 drivers still sitting on pit road, Kyle Keith, Anthony McCrury, although I'm assuming they're probably going to be done for the day. We'll have to follow up on that as the green flag comes back out on lap number 9. So how much did these drivers manage to save under that pacing lap? Was it enough to be able to make this a one-stop? Kyle Mathews, his big lead shrunk up after that yellow flag came out. Chris Dodd was right on the door knocking, but it's like Mathews is going to be able to pull away very easily from Chris Dodd. Kyle Mathews with a very strong machine. Trying to recollect, I don't think even in his championship season that Kyle Mathews ended up winning multiple races in the same year. I think that he's only had, at most, 1 win in a season, and the caution is out again. We went 2 full races without the caution waving once. And now, here in the Hersheys Cup Series race, it is waving 2 times in the first half of this race. And I just looked back, and actually Kyle Mathews was a 2-time winner in his championship season. I would be a good propagandist. Chris Dodd trying to close in on Kyle Mathews for the race lead, trying to get it from him before they reach the caution flag. He's close, but he's just not close enough. So Kyle Mathews will lead us under this yellow flag here, and this might be very interesting now because I gotta wonder what's gonna happen in terms of some of those drivers that pitted under the first caution, like Miles and Lake, Gardner. They might be able to stay out if Mathews and Chris Dodd and company are all gonna have to come to pit road. See if we can pinpoint who this caution would have involved. Baskinger, the points leader, way back here. Everybody here is running pretty well. It might have actually been the 38. He's the only one that's way back, and he's actually bringing his Red Bull Chevrolet to pit road. Don't see a whole lot of damage on that machine, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't involved in the wreck, and he's going to hit pit lane. He'll, I think, be able to stay on the lead lap, though, because the field just now catches up to the pace car. So let's go back, take a look at a replay. We're just about halfway, second caution of the day at Daytona. Well, Jake Baskinger, another driver that looks like he's going to be a confirmed entry into this season's chase for the championship with his win at Kentucky and currently leading the points, was trying to accumulate as many positions as he could here, as many points as possible as he tries to increase his points gap heading into next week's race. Let's see what happens to him. I'm assuming it's in this section of the course because this has been the trouble spot for most drivers. Now the 79 of Jordan Lopez, the lap machine and definitely off the pace, is up ahead. I wonder if maybe he wads these guys up. Oh, there you go. They were 3 wide. 3 wide, almost 4 wide there. And it was actually Brandon Gonzales in the 23 that brought the caution out. His car slid sideways, almost came to a stop. Little contact there in the left front for Jake Baskinger, but it was because the 23 was sideways that actually brought out the yellow. They all got wadded up there, and they were 3 wide going through one of the sections it's tough enough to go single file through. It's amazing we didn't have a lot of cars all torn up in that because there were a lot of drivers in the vicinity. So we kind of got away with one there, but there you see Baskinger. It looks like his car didn't refire very well. I wonder if he might have broken a gear or missed shift or something. Because I don't think the contact he made with Brandon Gonzales should have been enough to have him be way off the pace. So there might be something internally wrong with that 38 car. He might have shifted down to first, maybe broke second gear. I don't know. But whatever the case, problems for the points leader coming to this race. Let's go back to green. Well, there you go. Just what I was expecting. Those drivers that came to pit road under the first caution deciding to stay out here under this yellow, and Benjamin Miles now gains valuable track position with that second caution flag coming out. He'll restart the leader. Shane Lake there in second. Keith Batson will be third. And fourth place, actually the car that brought out the yellow flag, Brandon Gonzales. You see him with rear end damage. There's a little bit of left front damage, but for some reason they didn't bring that car to the pit lane. And so he's going to restart in fourth. They've got that car of Jordan Lopez in between all of them there, though. He's the fourth car in line. He is a lap down. Chris Dodd actually beat Kyle Mathews off of pit lane. So he will restart fifth. Mathews in sixth. Seventh place is going to be Levi McIntyre, Cole Baker eighth. Ninth is going to be Benny Watson with Joshua Osborne completing the top 10. 11th Cittadino, 12th Dallas McIntosh, 13th Cody Smart, 14th Holly Davis, 15th Daniel Voyles, and the rest of the top 20 are going to be Hartnett, Fitzwater, Gallighan, McCloud, and Dollerton. Tim Walsh restarting in 22nd, trying to get himself away from that 30th in the point standings cut line. So now is the question of Miles, Lake, Batson. They all came to pit road about 2-3 laps sooner than everybody from 5th on back. Or can they be able to make it all the way to the end on fuel? Green flag back in the air. Top 3 get away as Lopez slow through the gears. And Miles also going to get away. He opened up a little bit of distance heading into turn 1 ahead of the 55 of Lake. So now Kyle Mathews finds himself doing something he hasn't done for a couple of laps, and that's having to pass race cars. He made that pass on Levi McIntyre earlier on, and that was the only thing that he really had to do in terms of battling to try and get a position. Benjamin Miles struggling in the points coming into this race. Currently finds himself 24th. Looking for what would be only his third top 10 of the season so far. Top three have definitely gapped themselves. I think fourth place hasn't yet gotten around the slow car of Jordan Lopez. And the caution is out again. Mathews now makes the pass on Lopez. I think he actually got around Chris Dodd, so that's an important pass right there. Because if Miles and Lake and Batson can't make it on fuel, then that would cycle the lead back around now to Kyle Mathews. However, this caution might be a little bit of a blessing in disguise for these top three, because they'll be able to maybe save some fuel under pacing, and this might be enough for them to be able to make it the remainder of the way if they were a little bit close. Benjamin Miles going to lead him down here to this caution flag. Third one of the day. I'm actually just in shock the fact that we even had one caution here today, let alone three. At a track where all weekend we hadn't seen the caution flag wave at all in two events. Now let's see who was involved in this one. Oh, Cole Baker, who was up inside the top 10. Wow. Dougie Shears has got damage. Cody Llamas with a little bit of damage. He might have been involved. So another wreck. I'm going to assume it was over in between turns 1 and 2. And so as Benjamin Miles, with a valuable bonus point for leading the lap, paces the field here behind the pace car. Let's go back and see what happened. Baker had restarted in the 8th position. Was having a good run, and right there you just see he just takes the turn too wide. Hits the guardrail, car's going to go into a slide, and I think he's going to have some contact made. Oh, that's last week's winner, L McIntire, who needed a good run today, and he's got some damage now, does the 14. And a couple of cars going to sneak by and pick up some valuable spots. That was Holly Davis there getting through, Daniel Voyles, J McCloud. McIntosh and Smart having to go through the grass, and remember, it's race back, so all these drivers losing valuable positions, and right there some contact from his teammate, Zachary Fitzwater in the 59. Dylan Poteet got into somebody. He might have run into the back of Jordan Anderson or maybe into the back of Dougie Shears because he has a lot of front-end damage. Oh, and Baker's car goes up in the air a little bit after contact from, I think that was K Shearer with the right front. There's Anderson, and there is Dougie Shears. You can see he's got some damage on the hood of his Red Bull Chevrolet, so he was involved. I don't know if Cody Llamas was involved or if he just came to a stop to not run into anybody. But he lost a lot of track position and a lot of positions in the running order as well as a result. Tough break there for Cole Baker. Was running in the top 10, gets into the wall, and then everybody just starts running into him, and he's all the way at the back of the field now with a very damaged race car. Well, Benjamin Miles, Shane Lake, Keith Batson apparently could not make it on fuel. They took the opportunity to hit pit road, so if they couldn't make it, now I don't know if Kyle Mathews and company can make it. We're going to have to wait and see. When we restart, there'll be 6 laps to go. Mathews the leader over Chris Dodd, Levi McIntyre. These three have really been the front runners since we went to green, despite the shuffling up of positions with these cautions we've had. We have 38 of our 39 drivers running that are on the lead lap. Only 4 drivers at this point, or I'm sorry, 3 drivers at this point out of the race. Kyle Keith, Anthony McCrury, and Seth Cole. 2 of those big because Kyle Keith and Seth Cole both came into this race, as you can see down on the bottom right of your screen, in one of the 16 playoff positions. So this opens up the door for other drivers in the point standings to maybe move their way up into the picture. Drivers like Dylan Poteet, Keith Batson, Joshua Osborne, Daniel Guilbert, Cody Smart, Johnny Gardner, they're not too far out. So 6 laps to go. We've worked 3 cautions in the first 14 laps of this race. Kyle Mathews gets us back underway. And remember back on the, I think it was the last caution, the last run that we had, Kyle Mathews got around Chris Dodd for what was at the time the 4th position, and with that other caution coming down the top three having to pit, that ended up in turn giving the race lead over to K Mathews. If Chris Dodd had been able to hold him off, Chris Dodd would have been restarting as the leader. So that was a very important pass there for the 09 car. Had a battle going on back there for, I think that was third. No, that was for fourth, rather. Joshua Osborne was under fire from Benny Watson and holds him off. Osborne, last couple of weeks, has been on a roll. Osborne up to 15th in the point standings, and I believe the last 3 weeks he's actually been rookie of the race. He finished third last week at Thornton. He finished fifth the week before at Richmond. And he was rookie of the race the week before that at Charlotte when he finished 17th. So for the past 3 weeks he has been rookie of the race, and he's actually been starting to make it a little bit of a battle as well now for the Rookie of the Year honors, as the caution is out again. Fourth time. But the points leader Scott Roush now only has a 5-point advantage between himself and a second place tie between Holly Davis and Joshua Osborne. Well, if K Mathews and these guys couldn't make it on fuel before, I have a feeling this caution is going to allow them to make it. I think they'll be able to save enough fuel. Question is, will we be finishing this race under green or under yellow? As fourth caution of the day we are now under. We had a battle that was potentially brewing for second place. We're not getting to see a whole lot of passing here because nobody's getting the opportunity to be able to set somebody up for a pass, with these constant yellow flags getting in the way. And J Bryant, a lot of damage, smoke pouring out of the back of the Hawaiian Punch Ford Fusion. He was involved. Oh, and the points leader Jake Baskinger, more problems for him. That car looks like it's done for the day. The whole grill pushed in. Dallas McIntosh, oh man, last week's winner, needed a good run to get into the top 30 in points for his win to count towards a playoff spot. Lot of damage on the Cheez-It White Cheddar Dodge. And this looks like this might have been our biggest wreck of the day so far. Tough break there for Bryant. Baskinger's probably going to have his points lead cut into now, and Dallas McIntosh is going to have to rely on the next 3 races for his Thornton win to get him into position for a playoff spot. And I believe that was Daniel Guilbert in the 4 as well. A lot of damage on his car. A driver that came into this race situated 16th in points. Had an opportunity here with a couple of drivers that were in playoff positions without a win to maybe move up into a playoff spot. But that car badly, badly damaged and probably out of this race. Let's go back real quick, see what happened. Big multi-car wreck apparently, and a lot of damaged cars. Fourth caution of the day here at Daytona. Bryant was running in the top 20. Same thing we've seen pretty much this whole race in terms of these yellow flags. Takes the turn too wide, gets the guardrail. The car is going to spin around on him. And there's the shot from Dallas McIntosh. You're going to split him right there. That was Cody Smart and Dylan Young. And then as Bryant tries to get the car rerighted, there is Jake Baskinger. That's going to actually flip the 22 over onto his roof. Wow. There's the 4 of Daniel Guilbert gets through this. So what did he get involved in that caused all that damage on his machine? Here he is with Trent Dunham. So you have something happen further up here? Because that car had a lot of front-end damage. Let's look and see if maybe something happens down in the dog leg. Down the chicane. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, this was Gilbert and Gallighan. This is the first time this weekend we've actually seen problems in the chicane, actually, which surprised me. I thought we would see a lot more issues, and there you see Gallighan just takes it incorrectly. And as a result, tries to use the 4 of Gilbert as a buffer, and Gilbert hard into the tire barriers. Gallighan with a lot of damage as well, as he kind of sandwiched the 4 between himself and the tires. And there was just no way that Gilbert was going to be able to get out of that tire wall. Tough break there for Daniel Guilbert. He was running just outside the top 25, was trying to salvage what he could, had some damage, was a little off the pace, and looks like he'll be finishing out of the race as well. The garage area starts to pile up as we start to close in on the finish of today's race. We'll restart with 3 laps to go. Only time will tell whether we actually finish it under green flag conditions or not, as we have worked 4 cautions so far in this race. And I wouldn't put it past these drivers with a win on the line to maybe bring out a 5th. If it does come out, we will probably finish this race under the yellow flag. 2 more drivers have officially retired from the race, including the points leader, J Baskinger. So this is going to be very interesting because the driver that's trying to run him down for the points lead is leading this race. K Mathews came in 35 points behind Baskinger. Baskinger is going to finish way down in the finishing results. If K Mathews wins, K Mathews could be very well taking the points lead over heading to next week's race at Darlington. Also out of the race, D Poteet in the 31. We're waiting for the official verification of other drivers that we think are probably going to be out of the race after this, including D Guilbert, J Bryant, and L McIntire. Green flag set to come back out. It's Mathews, Chris Dodd, Levi McIntyre. Then it's Joshua Osborne, D Voyles, Benny Watson, J Cittadino, R Reynolds, J Gardner, Holly Davis. That is your top 10. 3 laps to go. That time, Chris Dodd did a pretty good job hanging with K Mathews. Mathews been able to gap Chris Dodd the last couple of times. Chris Dodd took the corner there a little bit wide, though, and that's going to lose him some ground as Mathews tries to pull away once again. Mathews trying to complete 3 things. 1, get a multi-win season to confirm himself a spot in the chase for the championship. 2, take the points lead over from Jake Baskinger. And 3, obviously, have the good momentum continue on, because that team's been on a roll as of late. Of course, winning a few weeks ago in the Coke 600 at Charlotte. So K Mathews and that team definitely on fire, and if he picks up this win, it would be their 2nd win in 3 races, I believe. Either 2nd win in 3 races or 2nd win in 4 races, but still, that's a pretty good feat. That's a lot of momentum on the side of that team, especially for a team that went winless all of last year. Still green, so that's a good sign. Maybe, just maybe, we will finish this race out under green flag conditions. That would certainly be nice. Looks like the battle may be on for 2nd here. K Mathews has not really had a challenge for his race lead when we've gotten back on these restarts. Levi McIntyre seems to be a little bit better than Chris Dodd. He tried closing up the gap, couldn't do it. And there's Joshua Osborne. Boy, that rookie's also been on fire in that 4th position. I wouldn't be surprised if he could maybe make the playoffs, could Osborne. You know, we've had a number of drivers that have struggled here today, and as I look at our playoff standings coming into this race, I'm looking to see if these drivers that right now would look like they would make it in on points. A number of them running very poorly here today, and they could very easily fall out of the playoff standings after we leave Daytona. A couple of drivers that come to mind, of course, Seth Cole out of the race, finishing dead last. Kyle Keith, I think he's multiple laps down. I think he's still running, but he is currently 41st. You got D Poteet there. He's in 39th. You've also got a little bit further up on the running order, a couple of drivers there towards the back. Keith Batson in 26th. And I think Scott Roush has been able to bounce up to 17th, but he's been kind of struggling today. And I look and I see these drivers that are struggling, and if there are any drivers that are running well that can maybe capitalize on the poor performances that are being had here today by a few of these drivers. And one driver in particular that really stands out to me is that 27 of Joshua Osborne in 4th place. He was 15th in the points coming into this one, and it looks like he could possibly, leapfrog a number of drivers, including Batson and Poteet, maybe be able to get past Kyle Keith in the standings. Those two came into this race somewhere around 29 point separation. But it's the white flag for K Mathews. One more lap around here. K Mathews so far this season, of course, 1 win. That was the Coke 600 at Charlotte. He's tied for the lead in top 5s with 4. Jake Baskinger also has 4, and he also is second highest in top 10 finishes with 5. Average finishing position of around 16th place for Kyle Mathews. And trying to become the first repeat winner for Retro Racing Enterprises this season. Last year, it was Jessica Shelton was the first 2-time winner for the team. In a year that Kyle Mathews was unable to make it to victory lane. Both his teammates went to victory lane, Sandfer and Shelton. And Sandfer was the only driver for Retro Racing Enterprises to represent for the team in the playoffs. About a second, little over a second advantage back to Chris Dodd. And unless Chris Dodd, Levi McIntire, and Joshua Osborne can maybe put together a good draft here on this Super Speedway section, I don't think they're going to be able to get to Kyle Mathews. Mathews has pretty much dominated this race, but a couple times he hasn't been out in front due to pit strategy that we've had with our multiple cautions here today. But he's always found a way to get back up to the front. And I go back to that pass he made on Chris Dodd for, at the time, the 4th position. I think that might have really been the deciding factor in the outcome of this race, to be perfectly honest with you. As out of turn 4 for the final time, John Art's going to have some company at the top of the playoff standings. For the first time since his championship season, Kyle Mathews is a multi-time winner in the Hersheys Cup Series. And back in Season 3, when Mathews won the championship, he only had 2 wins. Could we see Kyle Mathews, for the first time in his career, sometime here in the future, be a 3-time winner in a single season of Hersheys Cup Series competition? It's the 3rd win of the season for Retro Racing Enterprises. And now, along with John Art, Kyle Mathews has just basically locked himself up a spot in this season's Hersheys Cup Series chase for the championship. Let's take a look at our full finishing results from today's race. Mathews, the victory. Chris Dodd, so close to getting that win. Chris Dodd, it might be a guy that could pick up a number of spots in the standings, maybe try and get into the playoffs via points if he can't win in the upcoming 3 races. Levi McIntire, he remains consistent. This has been one of his best seasons to my remembrance. So he's going to finish on the podium. And Joshua Osborne, for I believe this is the 4th straight week, will get Rookie of the Race. He picked up 8 spots last week to come into this race 15th in points. I think he's going to jump up even more in the standings. And Joshua Osborne's looking like he could very well be one of our rookies that will actually make it into this season's playoffs. He's been very, very consistent. And how about R.J. Reynolds? We never really talked today about the driver of the 97, but a very solid outing for the KFC Toyota out of K Shearer Racing Tech. A couple of more former winners finishing back in 6th and 7th. J Cittadino there, and also the 2-time winner John Art with a solid outing, 7th place. Joseph Srigley will keep himself up there in the point standings with an 8th place run. Charles Sandfer will finish in the 9th position. And how about Cody Llamas? Florida native, going to finish top 10 here today at the Daytona Road Course. You look on down through the remainder of the finishing results there. Dougie Shears 11th, K Shearer 12th. Scott Roush battled back for a 13th place run after I think he had damage from, I think it was the 3rd caution. Jordan Anderson was also badly damaged race car on the back of his machine. He finishes 14th, and Benny Watson will bring it home in the 15th position. The rest of your top 20 were Johnny Gardner, Cody Smart, Holly Davis, Emmanuel Hartnett, and Chris Dollerton. But as you look on down from 29th on down, some pretty notable names here that were inside of the top 10 in the point standings, and some drivers as well that were just outside the top 10 that, according to the current playoff position, would be in the playoff standings. Keith Batson in 30th, so not the run he was looking for. Dallas McIntosh, after his victory at Thornton last week, was trying to get into the top 30 in the points, was 32nd in the standings coming into this race, and he finishes in 35th, so he's going to have to really try and bounce back in the upcoming weeks if he's going to have that win count towards a spot in the postseason. Jake Baskinger, luckily for him, he's got a win. He's up there, way up in the point standings. He was 35 points over 2nd place coming into this race. He'll finish 38th, though, here today. Struggled at Daytona. Dylan Poteet was in a playoff position. He finished 39th. Anthony McCrury, our Atlanta winner, 40th. And then 2 drivers that very well could fall out of the playoffs after this race. Kyle Keith finishing multiple laps down in 41st, and Seth Cole not completing 2 laps of this race, I don't think, and finishing in the 42nd position. We also said that we would keep tabs on Tim Walsh because he came into this race in that critical 30th position in the standings, and he has a win, so he's trying to get into the playoffs and get away from 30th in points. He finished in 27th here today, so I'm not exactly sure where that's going to position him. There were a couple of drivers behind him in the standings that finished pretty well here today, including Dougie Shears and Daniel Voyles, as well as R Reynolds, so we're going to have to see if they were able to get up close enough to Tim Walsh to knock him out of the top 30 in the points, and if that's the case, we could very well be heading into next week's race with 2 of our former winners currently outside of the top 30 and ineligible at this point in time to get one of those 16 available spots in this season's playoffs. But that's going to do it here from the Daytona Road Course. What a weekend it's been. 2 races clean and green, and then 4 cautions here in our Hersheys Cup Series race, and Kyle Mathews becomes the second 2-time winner on the season. Next week, we're going to be heading over to Darlington Raceway. The Lady in Black going to play host to Throwback Weekend for both the Pizza Hut X Series and Hersheys Cup Series, with the Last of Us Light Series in between there, racing at the short track of Salem. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and become part of the crew today. We have shown you all your full finish results. These are your rookie point standings and your overall points heading into Darlington. And, of course, next week, when we go to Darlington, you'll get a look at your updated playoff standings with 3 races remaining. For the Hersheys Cup Series, Darlington, Watkins Glen, and Hillside will be the 3 races that will determine who are going to be the 16 competitors for the championship. So we'll see you guys next weekend for Throwback Weekend at Darlington. Till then, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, All Flying Racing at its best. Kyle Mathews, 2-time winner as he takes the checkers today at the Daytona Road Course.